Definitely a joy to watch. With Ryze now taken off the board too, it increases the excitement level. Zoe becomes very high in terms of priority. H2K may look to ban it. We'll leave some of the power picks left available. Things like the Galley will also be taken off the board. I think that shows a lot of respect towards NukeDuck, who did go 708 last week. So it was definitely a good performance from him.
Like this pick again from Schalke. We've seen Pride on 2 Sejuani games. It's been the last 2 games that Schalke have played, and he has looked a lot better on it than his Kha'Zix pick previously.
It's taken them a while, but they have now converted Pride into a meta slave. He will be he played the Jarvan yesterday. No, my apologies. He did bring out the Sejuani yesterday, as you rightly identified. And H2K can answer with trying to get a bit more power in the bottom lane. Going for the Alistar for Promisq, bit of a playmaker. Remember, the Braum is still up and available. Wouldn't be surprised to see Schalke try and answer with that. An upset. They may look to try and get themselves in a new bottom lane. Something like the Tristana plus Braum could be a strong early rotation here. Would offer some nice disengage, a bit of self-peel against what looks to be like a lot of hard engage from the side of H2K.
And we saw Fnatic run the Zac and the... Oh no, so they ran the Jarvan and the Alistar combo, which is incredibly strong. So this hard engage comp does make it very easy to play team fights, because it's you just all in. You'll go in, you fight, and you see if you can win out in the end. It's going to be Camille here for Schalke. Could be in the top lane, could be support, something we used to see a lot more, not as common these days, although I did lose a ranked game to one recently, and there's the Zoe for NukeDuck as well, so a bit of aggression in that mid lane.
Now Selfie, it will be tested here. There's no need for them to necessarily lock in a mid lane pick unless they want to go for something like the Malzahar, which has been considered a conventional answer to the Zoe internationally as of right now. But we also saw Nisqy bring out the Twisted Fate yesterday as an answer. We've seen NukeDuck bring out the LeBlanc, so different mid laners have different preferences.
We've seen Caedrel bring out the Caedrel into that matchup as well. So there's a possibility. Fiora in the top lane for Smittyj.
This is quite an exciting one. We can talk a little bit more about the intricacies of this 1 versus 1 a little later, but Smittyj, he wants to be a bit of a carry. He did make that tweet yesterday. Hopefully my team is less AFK, and playing a Fiora, getting a lead in that 1 versus 1, you're definitely going to want your jungler to be active in the top side of the map.
But it also puts a lot of pressure on Selfie now, because you have to think that Schalke will look for some mid lane bans here, get rid of anything they think counters Zoe, and then Selfie falls down a few tiers in that mid lane pick list.
You would imagine so. That's why we'll be keeping our eyes on what he decides to go for. Instead, Schalke have their focus on taking away some of the... I originally thought that was a Kha'Zix ban, but it turns out to be a Malzahar. So, as you rightly identified, some of the more conventional answers that we are seeing to Zoe will be taken off the board.
H2K get rid of the Janna here for that disengage. There's the Taric as well. So 2 supports that are very good at delaying fights when they want to. They are looking for this hard engage that you talked about with the Alistar and with the Zac.
Feels like that they're allowing the Braum to be open though, not considering it to be a super strong answer to what H2K have drafted. I personally quite like the Braum here. We'll have to see what else Schalke can grab themselves.
And Braum is one of only 2 supports that Vander's actually played this split as well, that and Tahm Kench. So with Tahm Kench off the cards, you have to think the Braum is the likely lock-in for Schalke.
Wow!
Whoa!
Anivia into Zoe. Now, fortunately, I've been playing a lot of Anivia recently.
We're going to talk a lot about this when we get into the game.
Yeah, because this is quite an interesting matchup. Definitely not a conventional counter, I will say, but we'll explore it. And now we see the bottom lane lock in for Schalke. This is very much what we were talking about earlier on. Kind of what we expected, very safe, offers a lot of disengage against the draft of H2K.
So you've got your AD carry left here for Sheriff. What are we looking at? Xayah, Caitlyn, Varus still all available. Kog'Maw as well.
I think that would be so dangerous to run against a champion like Camille. I feel like having a little bit of extra CC follow-up from the engage from H2K would make more sense. I really like the Varus in this draft. I think it gives you a little bit more all-in power. And instead, they're going for the Kog'Maw. They're just going to invest in damage. I don't know. I'm not a massive fan of it. I think there's a lot of risk associated. Camille can very easily lock you down. You don't have many dashes or escapes. In the event that a sleep hits you, you're relying on the rest of your team to body block. But we'll see how things pan out. Sheriff, a young player, hasn't really had a proper opportunity to shine aside from that one Fnatic game that they were able to secure that win on. Now being put on this hyper carry, we'll see how he holds his own.
An upset again on the Tristana. Saw him play it well in the early game yesterday. Heard Freeze saying perhaps his late game decision-making, his positioning in teamfights wasn't quite as strong. There is a battle between these two AD carries, two of our rookies coming into the split. And there's a battle between these two teams as well, because Schalke need to solidify themselves as a top-of-the-pack lineup, whereas H2K just need to find a win from anywhere. Maybe this is the start of it. Yesterday we saw Caedrel sub into that jungle position. Didn't have the best of starts, but maybe today is H2K's day.
What we will be finding out, and we got to talk about this mid lane matchup to Medic. Another answer coming out to the Zoe in the form of Anivia, being played by Selfie as well. He typically liked to play a couple of control mages in the past, things like Orianna, Victor, Talia, were some of his most favorable champions. Bring out the Anivia. Can't recall the last time that we even saw an Anivia in the European LCS, let alone Selfie playing it.
Yeah, nor could I. In all honesty, yeah.
That's why we have a stats team that can provide us with that kind of information, Medic.
He has played it in the past. He's had one pick on it during his career. If the stats are to be believed, then he didn't win. So hopefully can even that out to 50-50 as we get on into the game and onto the Summoner's Rift. Both H2K and Schalke with a lot to prove. Before we get into specific matchups, I want to talk a little bit about compositions here, because H2K, we said, when they had the Alistar and the Zac locked in, they seemed to have this strong engage comp. They could dive onto the back line, but then you add in a Fiora, you add in an Anivia. That doesn't seem to round out that comp to me.
So, it's kind of a weird comp because they have a lot of strong team fighting aspects. Anivia has a lot of value in teamfights. She offers so much zone control with the wall and with the ultimate, her Q as well. Like, in teamfight, she just offers a lot of control, teamfight control, and her burst is surprising, especially because if you use the ult properly, you can get a lot of damage out with the E, very low cooldown once you put a number of levels into the ability. And then Kog'Maw obviously going to be a big late game or mid to late game carry threat, especially once he gets the Rage Blade. So you can see that there's a lot of damage. The issue is then they've thrown a Fiora into the mix that's kind of entirely playing on the side lane. And Anivia going for the TP, very conventional given how weak she traditionally is during the laning phase. And you need that summoner spell to make sure you don't fall too far behind during early levels. She can go off to a side lane, but she's not ideal. She doesn't have a huge amount of mobility. You don't really want her flanking in behind a lot of fights. So I think the Fiora pick is a kind of confidence boost for Smittyj. They're kind of relying on him to be one of the carries, one of the split push threats. And then you have, I guess, a lot of wave clear on the side of Anivia to just act as a stall mechanism while you use him to split push on the side. And then you're looking to, I guess, force a couple fights around the mid game. I guess, in all honesty, like, there's a lot of magic damage on this comp. I'm not a massive fan of it. I'm going to be learning with the rest of us to see how H2K make it work. And it just feels a little all over the place.
I think we're going to be learning how this Anivia into Zoe matchup goes as well, because NukeDuck yesterday had an incredibly strong performance versus G2. He was playing LeBlanc into the Zoe matchup. You can see high kill participation, incredibly high damage per minute as well. He's shown us that he is very good at positioning himself in teamfights and finding the avenues to actually take down his opposition number. And this lane seems like a prime opportunity to do that.
Mechanically, NukeDuck is very strong. We saw that on his LeBlanc game yesterday. And right now, he's generating a lot of early pressure to allow Pride to go for an invade, catch Caedrel out.
Caedrel will be able to elastic slingshot his way away, but Pride showing perhaps a little bit more jungle experience than Caedrel has there with the invade onto the Zac.
This is one of the issues, so let's talk a little bit more about this mid lane matchup specifically. Anivia straight up sucks early levels. She does not have the wave clear, her cooldowns are pretty high, and she's pretty much permanently forced under her tower, which means that you have no pressure. On top of that, you have to build a lot of mana items early. Now, different mid laners have different preferences. Sometimes you'll see that, almost always you'll see a tier, but some mid laners like to go Abyssal Mask, other mid laners will go Rod of Ages, some will skip that and go for a Morellonomicon. The point is, mana is important on Anivia. And because you have to invest so heavily in mana early on, you don't have damage until around the 20-minute mark. And And that means NukeDuck has full control to just play around with this little ice bird as much as he wants. Picking up these summoner spells, just constantly pushing in the lane, throwing out a lot of poke, means that he will constantly have the pressure, pretty much up until Anivia is able to complete those mana items, has her ultimate, and then has enough wave clear to at the very least stop Zoe from just freely pushing this lane all day.
And with Selfie being brought in mid-split as a super sub, a power addition to this team, a lot rests on his shoulders to help out the lineup now. Promisq trying to just position around the wall here, isn't really going to be able to get too much off because there was a ward spotting him out. Both TPs used in the top lane, and that's another matchup that we need to talk about because as the Camille and Fiora were locked in, you said this is a skill matchup on the top side of the rift.
Yeah, so the thing is about Camille is she's this hybrid between being a good split pusher but also being a good team fighter. She's not the best team fighter, but she's also not the best split pusher. Fiora will outclass her in the late game. She will win that 1 versus 1. But during the laning phase, Chachi will have a bit more natural power in the kit of Camille to have this kind of pushing pressure, especially with the addition of Comet and the use of his W means that you can just constantly poke out the Fiora and just apply a bit of pressure. Ideally, what Smittyj will want to do is use his riposte to mitigate the stun so that Chachi doesn't get that attack speed bonus, and Smittyj can then look to go aggressively, using the dash to mitigate some of the slow that will be applied onto Chachi. But right now, he's having to deal with the minions that are being pushed into his face, so he cannot really trade back.
Chachi has the Comet in the lane as well as Smittyj has the Kleptomancy. So looking to try and get a bit more gold, whereas Chachi, what you can do is with the tactical sweep, you get a bit of extra poke down because of the Arcane Comet. Pride and Caedrel are going to meet in the jungle once again. And we'll have to see exactly how Caedrel is able to deal with this invade from Pride and just the constant pressure from Pride.
Exactly that. That's the important thing. Pride is utilizing the fact that he has 2 pushing waves. The early wave clear from Chachi combined with the additional poke, along with the pressure that NukeDuck is able to exert in the middle lane. And against a Zac who really has no early pressure, Schalke's whole game plan here is let's make the mid laner extremely uncomfortable. Let's not give him an opportunity to farm in his jungle because he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't have that same level of experience that Pride does. Like, if you're a jungler that's new to the role, what happens when you lose all your jungle? What am I supposed to do? What's the natural instinct? And right now, Caedrel is struggling, already suffering in farm and experience. How is he going to gank? How is he going to apply that early pressure that Zac is pretty well known for doing?
So how is he going to do it? What would you do if you were the jungler in this situation, apart from perhaps let a solitary tier?
I mean, this is the ideal preference. You can see on the minimap there's a lot of wards invested towards the bottom side of Schalke's jungle. You kind of want to cross-map because you expect Pride to be invading on the top side because that's where he has pressure. But Kog'Maw and Alistar were actually putting up good wave push down in the bottom lane. And ideally, Caedrel just wants to swap sides of the jungle. Yes, he loses the ability to kind of prevent dives up on the top side, but he's able to at least keep up in farm and experience and maybe even steal away the red buff. But he wasn't aware of this. He instead tried to farm on the top side and he ended up just losing all of his jungle.
Selfie is going to be gifted across this blue buff. Pretty even across most of the lanes thus far. Slight CS leads for NukeDuck and Chachi. Slight CS lead for Sheriff as well, but no real action has happened yet. Pride has now hit 6, as has Chachi, so maybe we'll see something go on in that top lane. The Hexagoldamatum Glacial Prism combo is very strong. NukeDuck doing a bit of parkour there, dancing along the wall.
Be able to pick up his blue buff. Oh, nice jungler, holds it for him. And again, Pride straight into the enemy jungle because he knows he has pressure. But this is going to change a little bit now that Smittyj has some wave clear with the Tiamat picked up as well. And on top of that, as you rightly identified, Selfie now level 7 has the ultimate too, along with the Tia. Will help him out in that middle lane. And Sheriff, they've done pretty well down in the bottom lane so far. Been able to hold their own, and as you already identified, get themselves a bit of a CS advantage. But what can this Zac do? He's being bullied out. He's a whole level behind, and he doesn't have the support.
Lane pushing into him in the mid lane means that Selfie cannot roam across quickly. Caedrel still not at that level 6, and Pride on this Sejuani is doing such a strong job of just continually forcing Caedrel to make difficult decisions in his jungle. Chachi's going to trade onto Smittyj in the top lane. There's the Grand Challenge as well, trying to pop some balloons. And Smittyj continues the pressure. Here comes Pride up as well. There's the Hexa Ultimatum. Smittyj low, uses the stopwatch, the TP in from Vander. Just needs a little bit more for that stun. Connects across the wall, concussive blows as well with a second. Chachi jumps in. Here's Caedrel, can he delay it? Sleepy Trouble Bubble comes in, and that's the first blood to Schalke.
Smittyj coming up strong there, being able to dodge a lot of the abilities from Chachi and was winning out on the 1 versus 1. The duelist holding true to her name, but the support was there from Schalke. Immediately, NukeDuck roams up towards the top side. Pride has control over the top end of the jungle. The TP coming in from Vander as well. Schalke recognized the situation Chachi was in. They were there to support him. Whereas H2K were nowhere to be seen. Selfie was pressured in mid. Caedrel's only level 5. Promisq isn't running the Unsealed Spellbook, so he has Ignite in the lane. H2K cannot provide this level of support. And again, just keep your eyes on the mini-map right now. Because yes, Chachi's losing out in this 1v1. Smittyj does a great job of dodging out a lot, but very easy for Pride to arrive. Chachi, he just needs to buy time. The teleport comes in, Zoe naturally gets to roam up first because Anivia is being pushed underneath her tower, and the whole map is set up for Schalke to succeed in this situation. And that's why Smittyj, that's why this pick was a gamble. That's why this pick was dangerous, because you want to be investing in this top side. You want to be winning this 1 versus 1, and he doesn't get the support from his jungle. He doesn't get the support from the rest of his team, and that's all due to the fact that Schalke have so effectively shut down Caedrel and gained control over the early game.
Have a 1,500 gold lead, only 10 minutes in. Their early game up until now has not been the best across the course of this split, but this is looking a lot better from them. Sometimes you do just need a little bit of confidence.
And the thing is, Selfie came in expecting to be the change that H2K were looking for. They were hoping to just change something and be a little bit more aggressive in the early game, and you can see that even with an extremely low damage per minute, he's still 20%, a fifth of his team's damage. He's trying, but unfortunately the team just isn't coming together. This team is not performing as a unit, and you're just seeing the difference between them and Schalke in this early game.
Do manage to get a 1-for-1 tower trade there, though. Even though they lost first tower blood, it's something for H2K. They are doing something at the moment, even if it's not the most exciting of things. Caedrel's going to start up this Rift Herald as well, and with the majority of Schalke back in base, this should be an easy enough secure for H2K. Looks like NukeDuck's going to try and contest, but decides against it eventually.
So they will revert back to stand lane to the side of Schalke. H2K picking this one up will help them in securing that mid-tier 1 at the very least. This is going down relatively slowly. I wonder if Schalke can try and find a fight.
Upset on the front line. Gets a couple of autos down as Promisq, but shouldn't be too much more. Promisq dodges out the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, but takes a Paddle Star and an Ignite. There's the Winter Spite as well. He uses the Unbreakable Will to keep himself alive. And it's not... This is going to sound really bad, but it's not the worst for H2K. They're only 1,500 gold down. They've got a tower for tower. They've got a Rift Herald as well. It's not looking bleak for them yet.
Well, I'm still concerned about the goals of their composition. It just feels like a little all over the shop, and given the deficit that Caedrel's at, and the champion that he wants to play, this early game is definitely not going the way in which ideally they would plan. They want to play around Smittyj in the early game. Selfie just wants to farm, Kog'Maw just wants to farm. The bright side of this comp is it does scale really well. Anivia has a lot of late game damage, a lot of really good late game wave clear. Kog'Maw, we know, can hit really hard in the late game. You can play around the W, but that's kind of challenging once you reach the late game stage. And then Fiora, we know she's a really good split push threat. But then for Schalke, I feel like it's extremely easy for them to just group up around Baron and say, come fight us. You know, because we have a Camille. I'm pretty sure that we're a stronger team fighting team than your Fiora is. We have Zoe, who's really good at finding picks onto low mobility carries like the Anivia and the Kog'Maw. And every time you get near our objective and want to take it away from us, we're going to shut you down. And funnily enough, Baron is actually a really effective answer against Anivia because of the amount of bonus magic resistance all the minions get. It becomes really, really challenging to provide that same level of wave clear that you typically do on an Anivia.
Do just have a pause as Chachi is adjusting his mouse cabling. There is no technical issue here. It's just a cable issue, I guess, not in the right position for him. Hopefully we'll get that sorted out. Sometimes, that's why I use a mouse bungee. Do you know what a mouse bungee is?
I have no idea.
So it holds your cable off the table, and it means that it sticks in a specific space. So you always have the same amount of mouse cable to your mouse.
So you always get the same amount of slack.
Yeah, so you don't lose so it doesn't get caught under something. It's great.
And you can see, as you've just told this, Chachi's now thinking to himself,
oh, maybe
I should think about something that could keep, because obviously he can't hear us. Obviously.
It's also for mouse adrenaline junkies. It's mouse bungees. Mouse skydiving as well.
You're a little obsessed with skydiving, right?
I really want to go skydiving.
I know you.
I weigh too much, though. It's so annoying.
Maybe you should go bungee jumping instead.
Yeah, and then just break the cord.
You have mouse bungees, you have bungee jumping. It all ties in together.
That it does. That it does.
Now we need to find a way to transition this into the game.
So at the moment, it feels like Caedrel's trying to bungee his way into these fights with
good
the
transition,
Zac.
yeah.
He's fallen behind. We are going to get back into the game. And now with Caedrel behind, it feels like H2K are behind as well. But it's not as big as a deficit as it has been in the past. It looks like Schalke are going to set up towards this top side to try and take down this outer tower. It should be pretty easy secure for them. It is still on half HP though, so maybe need to wait for the next wave.
Sheriff hanging around saying, oh, no. I have enough wave clear to dissuade you from this. Zoe going to be forced to go back to the middle lane, but Chachi looking for a play.
Stopwatch straight away from Selfie, has the flash as well. Sleepy Trouble Bubble will not connect. And Schalke in this early game are looking decisive. They want to make the plays, they want to come towards that mid lane. Up until now in this split, they've been at a deficit the majority of the time. 4 out of 7 times at 15, 5 out of 7 at 20. Their goal difference at 20 is negative as well. In this game, it's looking a lot stronger, but things can change pretty rapidly in a game of League of Legends.
Certainly can. Schalke are going to be happy with the early advantage that they've been able to accrue for themselves. Once again, blue buff going to be given over to NukeDuck. And it's now just the slow and patient game inside of Schalke. They're going to look to push up. Here we are, the gank.
It's the bungee.
Caedrel.
It's the bungee, Vedius. The cord is struck. Chachi tries to jump away, but gets knocked up. Here's Smittyj as well. Hextech ultimatum is still available. Has been used on towards Smittyj underneath the tower, and H2K cannot dive any further.
Good use of the ultimate there from Chachi to dodge out from the Caedrel's ultimate, but knowing that there are 2 people bot side, Schalke are looking to try to answer up top. Zoe already making her way over there.
But again, it's the 1-for-1 trade. H2K take tower for tower here.
And Caedrel now using this as an opportunity to get some of his jungle back. He's tired of losing it all. He wants to get a little bit more farm. And they still have the Rift Herald down bot. Selfie will be able to clear out the mid wave, perhaps even roam down towards the bot side. There is no answer from Schalke. And this could be a second tower going in the favor of H2K. Instead, they decide to back off.
Rift Herald will try her hardest to take some damage off that tower, but it's only going to be about a third of its HP. Red buff stolen away by Caedrel, though, means that he's now even with levels with Pride. Chachi's going to jump across. Caedrel does get it. Here is Anivia as well. Selfie. Going to slow up Chachi. There is the goop coming out as well. The cell division, and Selfie really can't do too much here. Smittyj has teleported in. The Glacial Prison's going to connect onto him, and Chachi gets one. Sleepy Trouble Bubble as well for the Drowsy. Smittyj dodges it out. Can he make a play against Chachi? He cannot. It's a double for Schalke.
And it all ends in disaster for H2K. He just wanted a red buff medic. Caedrel, he thought he was safe. He thought, oh, all of Schalke's in the top side. They're all stealing away my jungle. I can steal away this red buff, but no, Chachi is confident that the rest of his team can follow up. So Chachi goes in knowing that Zoe is on her way down. NukeDuck is there to provide the support. And Selfie takes the blast cone out. He thinks that he's just in range to save his jungler, but he's not. And then H2K believe, okay, we can actually turn this one around. With 3 versus 2, we have Smittyj TPing in from the flank, but then Pride shows up. And it ends up being a 1 versus 3 that Schalke are very cleanly able to win for themselves.
Once again, really good stuff from Pride. He's played very well on this Sejuani thus far, putting pressure into the enemy jungle, stealing away camps, now stealing away kills as well. And you got a big Camille in Vizicsacsi 2-0-1 against a small Smittyj who's 20 CS behind. Starting to swing in Schalke's favor, but Selfie can still wave flip if Schalke go for too many pushes. The question is, can Smittyj deal with the pressure in this top lane?
On a Selfie, he has no flash.
Right, straight on towards Selfie. Here's the TP in as well. Now towards the bottom side, Selfie put in towards the egg, and this should be an easy enough secure for Schalke. The paddle start comes out. NukeDuck gets himself a Selfie.
It's the risk you run playing Anivia, no mobility spells. Pride very easily able to get the collapse, and they secure another kill for Schalke. Now their eyes will be set on this mid lane tower. Upset already making his way over. As Schalke gain a little bit more vision control. H2K are running out of options.
NukeDuck is in such a strong spot. Promisq going to get knocked up. Pops the Unbreakable Will, but still stunned up. Upset. Just raining down damage on the head of that Alistar, and Schalke should be able to secure this mid lane tower now. Very much the way of the game, the way we expected it to go. Schalke are just taking advantage after advantage.
And I love the way in which they use the Zoe to just force opponents away from the tower. That is an effective way of utilizing her poke, securing an early objective, and transitioning it over to another Drake.
NukeDuck gets put asleep. No, sorry, Caedrel gets put asleep by NukeDuck as he tries to run his way away.
Is this the revenge of Caedrel? No. No, it is not.
That's not the best of trampolines.
No. He was in the mid lane, he was going up against NukeDuck. He thought, wait, I've been here before. I can do it this time around. Unfortunately, he misses the ult, doesn't have flash, can't secure a kill, and Schalke end up victorious once more. So this is thanks to all the vision control that Schalke have been able to consistently have over H2K's jungle. And the Anivia, no flash, easy collapse from the rest of Schalke. Vander even TP's in to make sure he gets himself an assist, pad out that KDA, get a couple extra fantasy points for those that were able to pick him up. And Schalke right now sitting at about a 3,000 gold lead. And yet to see a proactive play from H2K, Medic.
And I have a great stat about that as well. Thus far throughout the split,
yes,
H2K have played 7 games.
7 games.
How many games do you think they have got a kill in?
Prior to 15 minutes?
No, at all.
At all?
At all.
I mean, surely it's like 4 or 5, right?
Lower than that.
Lower than that.
Lower than that.
Tell me, Medic, what's the stat?
2. In 2 of their 7 games, up until this game, they have got a single kill at least.
Wow.
This could be their 6th game.
Without a kill.
Without a kill.
Damn.
So that's the game you're playing now if you're H2K. You're 3,000 gold behind against a team composition that scales well, that sieges well, that engages well. Just try and get yourself a kill.
Small victories. It all starts there. Well, now with the Baron spawning relatively soon and the amount of control that Schalke have had around this objective, remember we were talking about earlier on with regards to the composition. Schalke are more than happy to force fights around the Baron. Largely because they know that they have the better engage and that they're confident in their teamfight ability, especially against the Fiora. And a NukeDuck that's level 13 and has already completed his Morellonomicon and a needlessly large rod.
Does just feel like a 1-3-1 here for Schalke. They put Chachi down in the bot lane. Got NukeDuck in the top lane, just split the pressure around. No one can deal with these guys. It's
true, it's because Chachi at this point in the game is so much stronger than the Fiora, but they're not even sending him over. They're just putting them in the side lanes because H2K is so far behind in terms of their individual laners that they haven't hit those spikes yet that give them the true strength of the champions. Like, once Smittyj hits the Black Cleaver and picks up his 3rd item, it tends to vary depending on the Fiora player. But that's when he'll start being able to win out on a lot more of these trades up against Chachi. And for Selfie, he's never really going to win a 1v1 against NukeDuck. If NukeDuck mispositions and uses his R too aggressively, you can use the Q to punish it. Because it's in a line, you're guaranteed to hit either at the front part or the end part. But aside from that, they're pretty much on wave clear duty, and the rest of Schalke are just gaining control of the entirety of the map.
And we're getting to that Baron spawning as well. You said that Schalke can use that as a win condition if they need it. Infernal Drake up as well. Schalke already have a Cloud and an Infernal for themselves. And they are just trying to set up vision around this river for now.
Smittyj going for a Trinity Force. That's quite interesting.
Why so?
Because typically you see the Black Cleaver. In terms of extended trades, I think it makes more sense on a Fiora. But given that he's running Kleptomancy, he's decided to go for the more expensive purchase in the Trinity Force. And yes, it gives you a little bit more damage. But it's definitely more of a duelist build. And right now we do see that Smittyj seems to be quite confident in his play. Chachi knows that he doesn't have the rest of his team to support him, so he doesn't even want to take the gamble. He's more than happy just wave clearing and allowing the rest of his team on the other side of the map to gain more pressure.
And you said Chachi is on the Camille, which is more of a mix between these sort of split pushers and these team fighters. Yep. Smittyj now maybe a little bit more in command of the lane. It's 20 CS down still. There's pretty even CS in that mid lane, but AD carries. Sheriff is behind. Chachi and Smittyj going to trade. There's the grand challenge, and Chachi needs to get away from this because no one is near him. Hexagol Maiden comes down. Smittyj looking for the outplay. The 1v1. He flashes in. Chachi flashes away. Smittyj still chasing straight into attack sweep. He's slowed. And maybe Chachi can get away. Smittyj jumps forward, but Chachi escapes.
So you can see this is the dueling power of the Fiora. The Camille not quite built for that sustained 1v1 like Fiora is. And that is why Chachi has to show his respect. I thought he'd be a little more patient, just rely on the pressure from the rest of his team. But now Promisq may be caught out.
Looking for the unbreakable will here. Stunned up, does pop it, still stunned. Here's Sheriff from the side, has the Runaan's and the Ginsu, so can put out a lot of damage if he's allowed to freely auto-attack.
Oh.
Selfie just got egged. Caedrel trying to stop it, but that egg is dead. Eventually, Vander takes him out. 5-0 in favor of Schalke.
Secures that one up. Selfie did have flash, so I think it was safe for Vander. Now he's trapped.
Puts up the unbreakable and should be okay. But we can see that Sheriff does put down a lot of damage if he's allowed the time and space in a team fight. And H2K still searching for anything in this game. They've got 2 towers, good trading from them early on, but since then have not been able to secure even a solitary kill. Lose another tower.
That's it, Medic. That's what we're looking out for. H2K, can they get themselves a kill? Redeem themselves a little bit in terms of the stats?
They're like the worst assassins in history. Their entire job is to get kills and win games. At the moment, they just can't get the kills.
Oh, and this is just Promisq getting caught out of position. Good reaction there from Upset to dodge out. Is this a one-shot? Whew!
Final auto.
Nasty. Even with building HP, no magic resistance on the Anivia means that, yeah, not quite a fun time against Zoe.
Selfie's still struggling to have the impact.
I mean, it's really hard to have an impact on Anivia. The reason why I play Anivia in solo queue is because she has an egg, and even if you die, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, because you die a lot in solo queue.
I do die a lot. So I pick it to just be safe, and I rely a lot on the pressure from the rest of my team. But right now, H2K have 0 pressure, and that's why they're conceding the 3rd drink of the game.
It looked like they might challenge for a second there, but now they are 5,000 gold behind 23.5 minutes in. They are not in the prettiest of spots. Is Rocket versus Misfits up after this game? That one is sure to be a barnstormer. Both teams looking to continue their winning ways. That was a very early stopwatch from Sheriff.
I don't think he wanted to die. I think that was his plan there. Is like, oh, death is on the horizon. I think I will dodge that one today. Unfortunately, he does avoid it. 0-0-0 so far for Sheriff. 50 CS down against Upset.
This Kog'Maw is a pug of many faces. What does he say to the god of death? Not today.
No, he says, I was trying to think of a dog pun and it didn't come to me.
Woof.
I mean, that's pretty weak, but okay.
It was better than I was trying to think of a dog pun and couldn't think of one.
Look at the bottom lane, skirmishing again.
Smittyj trading in here with a grand challenge. Chachi puts down the Hex. Ultimatum and Pride is on his way. He's going to jump across the wall. The healing on Smittyj is big, but the stun lock is going to come out. There's the teleport as well. Smittyj trying to escape until his team can join him, and Selfie's here to try and do something. The stun on Pride, the Seraphs as well. Chachi jumps in, but Smittyj is down, and now it's up to Selfie to try and 2v1. Upset's killed Caedrel on the other side of the map. Selfie looking at Chachi. Is it the first one? No! No, H2K cannot get a kill for love nor money.
8-0 are the kills in favor of Schalke right now. Chachi and Pride win out on the 2 versus 2. They want to take the Baron, but their jungler isn't there. They're going to start it anyway. Schalke looking dominant against H2K.
Not really sure H2K can stop them from doing the Baron at the moment. And this is the Schalke we wanted to see. This is the development. It's coming to fruition. First few weeks perhaps not as strong as they could have been. Yesterday against G2, a couple of mistakes in the late game, a couple of outplays from Perks as well, really turned it around. But today against H2K, they've been patient, they've been safe. They have a 6,000 gold lead. They're about to get a Baron 25 minutes in with triple dragons on their side as well. And Schalke are in a very pretty spot.
So let's see how Upset was able to avoid death. Engage comes in from Caedrel. He tries to flash over the burst from Zoe and ends up just flashing into tower range. And the nuke kind of went off. Now we get to see the trade down in the bottom lane. Smittyj going back to base. Vizicsacsi spots him out, immediately goes all in. Knows that Pride is on his way. This is why he's confident to take this 1 versus 1. Smittyj can't really do much in this situation other than get the passive out and regain some of his HP. And you can see he's actually starting to win out. But Chachi's just dancing around the back end of the fight, relying on the CC from Pride. The moment that Selfie joins the fray, you think, oh, okay, maybe they've got enough CC to turn it around, but they don't. And now we see another fight in the bottom lane. Smittyj, you're not getting the 1v1 you want.
But can he get a kill? He looks for Chachi. He can't quite secure it. 9-0 for Schalke now. They are trying to collapse through that middle lane.
TP is up for Chachi. Look, he's using it mid.
Here we go. Promisq overextended maybe. Caedrel's going to jump in. Chachi has the flank here. They got one. They get the kill, and H2K get their first kill of the game. A round of applause for them, and now Upset's just going to open up on this Tristana. That's Caedrel pops the stopwatch. Promisq caught out as well. NukeDuck jumping in from the side. Sleepy Trouble bubbles abound as Schalke are going to clean up crew this fight. Selfie goes into the egg. This is going to be gifted to Upset as he secures the fight. It is NukeDuck who gets it. And it looks like it is actually an ace there for Schalke.
For 5 in favor of Schalke. Yes, H2K, they were able to redeem themselves a little bit, but at the cost of their entire team.
3 out of 8, Vedius.
3 out of 8. Schalke on form to take this game in what is convincing fashion. They're grouping up in all 3 lanes. H2K have no answers as Schalke look to take their first inhibitor of the game.
Ludens, the Andrews, Morello Nomicon at the 27-minute mark. NukeDuck is on form. You've got Trinity Force and Sterax complete on Chachi. You've got triple items and a QSS on Upset. All of these carries for Schalke 04 are really coming home in this game. This is what we expected to see from them. Let's have another look at this fight.
So Vander, he face checks a brush. Feels like, oh, with my team here and the TP coming in from the flank, I should be fine. But when all 4 members focus down onto the one target, yes, they secure a kill, but then they've got nothing left to continue on with the fight. Caedrel ends up being the first one to fall. NukeDuck will be able to... Oh, Upset actually ends up picking that one up. You see Vizicsacsi cleaning up Sheriff on the back end, while the rest of Schalke deal with the 4-man unit that were in the middle lane. And you have to remember that Smittyj, he'd already died down in the bottom. H2K tried to force a 4 versus 5, and unfortunately for them, it ended up with the loss of a lot.
That it did, Vedius.
They still have their inhibitors though, so front side.
I was wondering if I said that, because it doesn't seem like they're going to have them for too much longer. Smittyj is going to die. So Chachi, who is dominating, and Schalke 14-1 up, can now push for those inhibitors. Still have Baron buff remaining for about 10 to 15 seconds or so. Down in the bottom lane, NukeDuck is trying to take a tower. It'll be the last inhibitor tower of the game to fall. And there it goes. Top lane inhib will go down as well. Schalke going to push in mid. Upset's bringing up a wave. Baron is just about to fall off for them as well. And they will be looking for that mid lane inhibitor if they can get it. Get the clean sweep of all 3. They end the game within a minute. They will actually have the fastest game of the split as well. So maybe another accolade that Schalke can add to their collection. There's the 3rd inhib. And they might just look for the closest. Smittyj still 7 seconds away.
Baron has ran out, so the siege will become a little bit harder thanks to the wave clear from Anivia, but I don't know if the wave clear will be enough when you're at a 15,000 gold deficit. Schalke have their eyes set on the Nexus. Let's see how they... Oh, they're just going to keep throwing out that poke.
They have so much poke. Wave's not in their favor, though, and they are just going to back away for the moment. Then they step forward once again. Maybe want to look down towards that Inferno Drake. Here's the wave down towards the bottom side. Glacial Storm was used. There's a Flash Frost as well with the Crystallized Wall coming out, but that tower is falling. Promisq jumps in. Glacial Fish off towards the backside. Promisq gets absolutely chunked, and Smittyj can't really do too much on this backline either. He's knocked away with the Buster Shot. Upset flashes for the kill. He's unstoppable, as are Schalke as they look to close out this game. The first Nexus Tower is going to fall. The second will join it shortly after, and they don't have the fastest game of the split, but they've got a darn fast one to boot. Schalke take it over H2K.
Clean game from H2K, from Schalke 04 rather. H2K were able to secure themselves at least 1 kill down onto Vander, but aside from that, they could do very little. Expectations were that Caedrel would be a more aggressive changer, that the introduction of Selfie would hopefully bring about a change. And what we've seen so far is that if you pick a lot of losing lanes, you end up losing too much in the early game, and Caedrel just doesn't have the experience to know how to handle that kind of a situation.
And a lot of that was on Pride, a lot of that was on Schalke having those pushing lanes. Pride did a great job pushing into the jungle, stealing away camps. It's a lot more of what we wanted to see from him. And Schalke as a whole just seemed to be slowly growing as a team, maybe into a quarterfinal, semi-finals contender. It's
difficult to tell from this game, you know, because when you look at the gap between the 2 teams, I feel like it is so large that there was just a clear mismatch between the 2 rosters that Schalke very effectively shut down this H2K squad. You just have to hope that for H2K they find, maybe with a little bit more practice, a better opportunity to turn things around in the second half of the split. But for Schalke, having a convincing win here is definitely important, considering how close their game versus G2 was yesterday, how they were so close to securing themselves that win. Being able to show that you are a cut above the bottom of the pack, showing that you are willing to fight for those top spots, is definitely going to be something that's important for their confidence, and as we reach that halfway mark in the split.
And it's important that you show you can carry from multiple positions as well. Yesterday was NukeDuck, Upset having a good performance on both days. Today, a lot of it lies on the shoulders of Vizicsacsi, you know.
And Pride, I feel.
And
the
Pride.
duo together.
6-0-7 for Vizicsacsi on this Camille in a matchup that isn't always favored towards him. He played well around Smittyj's aggression, but was always willing to go in when he knew his team was there to back him up.
I felt like there was good teamwork there with Vizicsacsi and Pride. The fact that he would only try to go for those all-ins when he knew he had the support. He is a top laner that we haven't really had a huge amount of opportunity to talk a lot about with the performance of NukeDuck, but today he definitely had a strong show.
After the break, we'll hear from